Oh, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us here at the ACC Community Center room. We're in the community room practicing our gentle yoga for the next hour. I'm Jeani, your guide, and today's class we're just continuing on. The weather is getting much warmer, so hopefully we're going to have some cool down poses later in our practice that'll help us for any activities we may have been doing in the warmer weather. That and just a gentle reminder to have water near you. It's going to be 100 degrees tomorrow, so just getting yourself hydrated and ready for the oncoming heat. And with that in mind, let's go ahead and start at the back of the mat. I'm going to start our practice with just arriving at the back of the mat. Notice how the mat feels under the feet. Keep a bend to the knees if you have tight soreness, tightness in the legs. Just give yourself some space as you arrive. As we breathe in, as we breathe out, just giving ourselves a moment. Let's begin to cultivate our breath. We can bring the left hand to rest on the chest, right hand under the belly button. Arms nice and loose, relaxed at our sides. And the hands at these points where we can see how the breath travels through the body. With the next inhale, slowly fill up the lungs. Notice how the hand on the chest, how parts of the body may lift. And as you start to exhale, slowly with a little more control, notice how the belly hand might soften and actually pressing the belly hand in at the bottom of that exhale, helping to engage the core. And as we are breathing with a little more effort, noticing the inhales, the exhales, and pauses in between. Go ahead and finish cultivating the breath by bringing the sound of the ocean to the back of the throat. We'll go ahead, bring the hands down to our sides, lifting the feet, rolling the toes up, rolling the heels up, and then just resituating our mountain once more. Let's go ahead and inhale. Start to feel the length of our legs getting a little longer as we inhale to the top, to the crown of the head. Then on the exhale, slowly feeling the energy reverse course, feeling a little longer, stronger, and more rooted by the end of that exhale. Let's go ahead and start rolling the weight towards the toes with the next inhale, bringing ourselves to that edge. And with the next breath, roll the weight at the feet towards the heels. See how far back you can tip. And finding those edges, just give yourself a few breaths rolling from the toes to the heels, and then finally to the center, somewhere at the top of the arches, nearer to the heels. Setting into our mountain, inhale, lifting, resetting once more, feeling that energy at the top of the head. We're going to start making slow rolling towards the outer right edge. And then inhale all the way back up and over to the other side. You can use a 2-part breath, just breathing from side to side. Or you can use a 3-part breath, inhaling to the center, then exhaling to either side. But once you get that horizontal mapping at the soles of our feet, we'll go ahead and meet at center. Reset the mountain once more. Do whatever you need to do to reset. Inhaling nice and tall. We're going to still make that upward energized feeling with the inhale as we start to slowly make circles in one direction. Think about starting at the ankles and finding more and more of the perimeter of the feet as you get wider and wider in those circles. And once you find the perimeter, the edge in this direction, we'll go ahead and return to center, tightening in those circles. And back in mountain, like water going down a drain. We'll go ahead and reset once more, lifting, and this time in the opposite direction. Just moving, feeling if it's any different, noticing if it's not, and then tightening in the circles once you've established that perimeter, and sinking back into our mountain, resetting along the way. You can always completely lift up a foot and the other, especially if you have a tendency to grab the mat with your feet. We'll move on up to lubricating the ankles, hips, maybe even shoulders. So getting the feet just a little wider than the hips distance apart. We're just slowly starting to pivot on the heel, lifting the ball of the foot as we gather more and more momentum from side to side. And it's just slow. You're just organically moving from a place of gently shifting weight from side to side to moving parts of the body like the ball of the foot as we move more towards one side. Or perhaps even the separation of the upper torso from the lower, giving yourselves a slight gentle twist. And with the momentum, allowing the hands, the arms to be relaxed and gently tapping as you move from side to side. We'll go ahead, start diminishing the momentum, let it peter out, return to center. Lift up the foot once more, the feet, reset the mountain. We'll move on up to the shoulders. Give yourself a bounce or two, just sometimes, so you can feel that release in the knees. Standing, heel to toe, a little taller, chin gently tucks, shoulders are hopefully getting a little more over the hips, which should be over the ankles and knees. So as we go up towards the shoulder rolls, let's go ahead and inhale, shoulders lift up. Exhale, roll them back and down. Melt them into the mid-back if you can. And as we inhale and exhale for the next 3 to 4 breath cycles, we're just seeing how the shoulder girdle feels. Using that deep ocean breath to help facilitate the release. With the next inhale, we'll start our round moving forward on the exhale, still melting the shoulder blades down. Inhaling up, rolling forward on the exhale and down the back, fully exhaled, engaged core. And after your very last set, let's go ahead and work up to the neck. And again, reset the mountain as you see fit, standing nice and tall. See if you can feel that string at the crown of the head lifting up, bringing everything into a stacked alignment, ear over the shoulders, over the hips, over the knees, over the ankles. Nice and tall, column of support. Let's go ahead and inhale, lifting from the crown of the head. Exhale, let the right ear dip towards the right shoulder. Take the next few breath cycles to find release on the left side of the neck. Turning the gaze on the exhale and finding a deep inhale with each passing breath cycle, finding the release on the left side of the neck, maybe even in the eyes. Allow the gaze to rest at the far right of your vision. After the last exhale, let's go ahead and bring the eyes the gaze, the head lifting towards the center, the ceiling, and then exhale. Let the left ear dip towards the left shoulder. Inhaling for length, exhaling for release. Turn the gaze if you haven't already. Palms facing forward helps to keep the shoulders rotated away from the ears. And keeping the shoulders in line with one another, as well as the hips in line with one another, and the ankles. All joints stacked one on top of the other on either side of the hemisphere of the body. Last exhale. Let's go ahead and bring the eyes, the gaze, the head completely back up. And with the exhale, let the eyes float to the top of the mat, somewhere about 6 feet in front of you. A good inhale still gives you that lift, even with that diagonal tilt at the crown of the head. And each exhale still feels those shoulders nice and relaxed, melting down the back, column of support from the shoulders down to the heels. And after your very last exhale, let's go ahead and inhale the gaze back up to center, past the midline, up towards the ceiling. When you can see ceiling tiles or most of the ceiling, go ahead and stop craning the neck. Use the next 3 to 4 breath cycles. See if you can release any hidden tension, activation of jaw, tongue, throat muscles with the next few breath cycles. See if you can find that lift at the heart of the chest. And as you're making your way to the very last breath, exhale, bring the eyes back to center. And give yourself any residual flick of the wrists, lifting of the feet, tapping of the knees, gentle bouncing at the knees. And we'll begin our modified sun salutations. So bringing the arms to the sides. Let's go ahead and bring fingers reaching down toward the mat as we inhale and extend these reaching arms. And at the top, we might even lift up at the torso. Exhale, engage the core and come on down, flat back. Halfway down, you can always walk the hands down, but let the lower back end fold into our first forward fold, extended to about 5 breath cycles. So give yourself some time here. Takes about 3 to 4, maybe 5 breaths to find some sort of edge, some sort of place where you're comfortable. Notice if your knees can bend alternately to help release any tightness in the back of the legs. You can always keep that bend at the knees. A deeper bend for tighter legs. But try to find that column of support, center of gravity, somewhere at the hips down towards the heels. And if you're holding on to the head, it's a great time to bobble the head gently from side to side, forward and back, maybe even just dangling like a plumb line. After your very last exhale, we're going to do a slow roll up. And you can just prepare the core by simply pressing into the feet, firming the legs, and slowly rolling up the spine, walking the hands up if you need, until the very last thing to stack is the head, palms to face forward. Give yourself a breath or two to let the blood rush back to the head and collect the focus. We'll do one more forward fold, reaching downward. Inhale, arms up. Exhale, engage the core and fold at the hips. Bend the knees if you need. Float on down. 3 breath cycles here. You can always sway the hips from side to side, alternately bend one knee, then the other. You can curl up the toes. Do what you feel is right for this point. And then we're going to do a half lift here. Let's go ahead and inhale. Press into your contact with the hands. If that's the shins, if that's the mat, if that's forearms to the thighs. do something so you can lengthen from the hips, down the spine, to the crown of the head. If it's not at a 90-degree angle, that's okay. Maybe it's a lesser degree, but just try to lengthen through the spine. And then exhale, go ahead and float back to the fold, bending the knees deeply if you need. Then we're gonna come on up one more time. And that's inhaling with a slow roll up or with a strong back. Straight back, inhaling all the way back up, exhaling hands down heart center, and we'll start our walking meditation. Inhaling, engage the core, press into the palms and lift the right foot. Exhale, step it down gently from the heel, ball of foot to the toes. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale it down. And as we make our way to the top of the mat, one full breath cycle per step, we'll go ahead and meet at the top of the mat and look down at the fingertips. Inhale, press into the palms, watch the fingertips rise. Separate the palms at the top. Exhale, hinging at the hips, engaging the core. Float on down for a third fold. Fully exhaled here. Let's inhale for a half lift. Exhale, bend the knees if you need, and fold again. Place the hands at either side of the feet and step a right foot back and a left foot. Take many steps if you need. In inhaling, we're bringing the shoulders over the wrists, bring the knees down, untuck the toes, and let's check out our modified high plank. See if you can feel those shoulder blades protracting, moving away from the spine, pressing into extended arms, bringing the palms flat or as flat as you can. Inhale, let's take tuck the toes, lift up the hips, and exhale, press into those extended arms to bring the hips back towards the back of the mat for your first down dog. You can bring the palms slightly forward if you find that relieves some of the stress in the wrists. We don't want to be directly over the wrists like we are in our plank. We're finding this upside down V where the energy of the hips lift up while the energy in the arms and the legs move downward. The heels can be lifted, and you can always play with that. You can inhale, one heel up, one heel down. You can cycle out through the legs. And like our first forward fold, the first down dog is a little longer. It's about 5 breath cycles, so take some time. But we're almost done here. So as we start to engage our very last breath cycle, inhale then, bring the eyes to the hands, and exhale, walk the hands, bending the knees if you need, coming to the fold at the back of the mat, fully exhaled. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, firm the legs, engage the core, and come on up, your choice. Exhaling, hands down heart center, and let's move into our second round. Inhale, right foot up. Exhale, right foot down. Inhale, left foot up. Exhale it down. One breath cycle. Think of the ocean breath and engage the core to help maintain your stability. At the top of the mat, looking down at the fingertips, press into the palms, inhale. Separate the palms and exhale, engage the core to fold. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, place the hands at either side of the feet. Step one long leg, and then the other. Inhale, long high plank. Strong from the heels all the way to the crown of the head. Engage the core. Let your belly button stick to the spine. Press into the arms. Inhale, let's lift up the hips. Exhale, press into the arms to your down dog. Bring the hips back. It's only 3 breath cycles here, so do what feels good to you. You can roll to the tips of the toes. Exhale, pressing into the arms and lowering the heels to where you naturally land. Keep the ears hopefully somewhere in between the upper arms, and shoulders are rotated away from the ears. Inhale, look to the hands, and exhale, bend the knees, walk to the back of the mat, to your fold. A little farther back than usual. Inhale, half lift. Exhale, fold. And inhale, engage the core, press into the feet, and come on up to mountain. Exhaling, hands down, heart center, and finally down to the side. Hopefully you feel a little warmer. Just getting the body up and down, and I'm going to adjust my mat here. But we'll be moving into our standing pose now. Let's move into our tree. And with tree, you have the option of using the block if you'd like to. On our second set, we'll be lifting the heels. If you're working on just developing your chair, you can skip the lifting heels part and just feel that weight in the hips. So here we go. Moving into a chair, we just come into our mountain, and you can do that somewhere at the back of the mat, center of the mat, doesn't matter at this point. But feet should be about hips distance apart. And notice how you're feeling. If you feel tented in the hips, your tail might be sticking out. We want to tuck the tailbone under. That kind of brings our spine and pelvic bowl into a good position, so we're nicely stacked. We hopefully are bringing more of the joints right underneath each other. Just that gentle tuck under of the tailbone helps us to find length in our mountain. Again, feeling like the string at the crown of the head is lifting up. So all we have to do is inhale the arms upward, and they can be at an angle here, and then exhale, just shift into the heels, sink on down until you feel your glutes and quads engage. You don't have to sink very far to feel that. So you can play with that as well. The farther down you sink, the more challenging it becomes. You'll feel it in the quads, you'll feel it hopefully in the glutes, but you want to keep more of the weight here at the hips. You can go ahead and bring your arms down, bring the hands to the hips if you'd like, or you can bring the hands to heart center and feel that core just really engage. Feel like you're just condensing right here into the center where your belly is. If you want to know whether or not you're feeling the weight in the heels, lift the toes. Go ahead and bring the toes down. Inhale, straighten the legs. Release the hands to the sides. And give yourself a breath or two. You can gently roll to the tiptoes, roll back down. You can jiggle the legs a little bit. See if your thighs are still active. See if your glutes are still active. See if you can release that activity. And we'll come in for our second chair. And if you have your block behind you, all I'm going to do is step back onto it if I'm cultivating that lift of the heels with the alignment and stacking of the joints of chair. So inhaling in our mountain once more, arms go up. Exhaling, we just sink into our chair. Go ahead and step onto your block if you want. Or inhale, lift the heels. And find that balance. Some balance at the balls of the feet, but at the same time you're finding that column right at the hips down to the heels. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. Engage the core. And then lower the heels. Step off of the block. Bring the hands down. And then go ahead and kick out any residual tension in the legs. One right after the other. And then you can shift out to the side. Both sides, shift out to the side. And then we're just going to come to this position. We're going to just let the heels pivot outward a little bit. Let the toes pivot inward and bend your knees just a little bit. So we're almost going to be pigeon-toed, just slightly, just like that. And just bend the knees just a little bit. And then inhale, straighten, bring the heel and toe alignment back together. Hopefully that helped your hips some. Now we'll be coming down to our bellies. So the best way that you can get down there, if you've got that figured out, go ahead and do it. But for me, I like to start to fold forward or squat. So if I'm having extra tight hips, I might just fold forward and start to lean forward and bring the hands down, bring the knees down. And as you come into the Sphinx position, if you know you'd like some cushion on your belly, maybe your hip bones are a little bony, go ahead and spread out your blanket. But we'll be meeting on our bellies in just a moment. And as we stretch out on the belly, coming down one forearm at a time, we did a lot of work with the hips, so it may take a little bit of time to feel open in the hips. If you feel tented, if it feels really tight and it just feels nice to be supported by the ground, give yourself a few moments to just savor that time that you're supported. One thing to think about is the head position. If your forehead is being supported by the palms and the elbows are at about your ear length, a little above the shoulder, and you're feeling good, you can just rest here for a little bit. Gently roll from side to side. Give your pelvic belly just a nice little massage. If your shoulders are really tight and you can't bring your elbows up above them, then you can bring them down below. You can bring the arms out to the side. You can have the back of the hands at an angle away from the body, at the sides. You can rest on a cheek, press into the belly and chest to turn the gaze slightly, and balance with another turn on the other side. And as we're just making our way to the Sphinx position, hopefully your body is now adjusting to the transition. All right, so bringing our face somewhat above the mat, kind of smushed with the nose and the chin. That's okay. We're going to bring the fingers to about the shoulder levels and start walking them upwards. See if you can eventually bring the elbows to right below the shoulders. You may have to just gently move forward the hands. We're resting, really the support of the upper body is coming from the forearms, not the elbows, but the forearms to the palms to the fingertips. And the shoulders hopefully not caving in towards the spine or the ears. We want them externally rotated away, moving away from the ears, away from the spine, and rolling them back and down like in our warm-up. So hopefully you have a nice broad upper shoulder. You're looking down or maybe a little up to the fingertips, to the thumbs, but we're not craning our neck. We want to make sure that we're looking either straight down or just a little below. Now notice if your glutes are active, if your toes are active, you can point the toes to the back of the mat. You can lift the foot to the toe tip and then rest it once more on the instep of the foot, the top of the foot. And once you're here, probably just as relaxed as you'll be getting. So here we're just going to notice everything from the hips down to the toes. Hopefully they're just relaxed. Take the next inhale and start to press down into your forearms and palms to pull forward the torso with no activation of the lower body, just the slight pulling forward by just simply holding on with that surface area from the forearms to the fingertips. And when you breathe, think of the deep ocean breaths. See if you can soften the belly With each inhale and exhale, just the skin of the top of the belly is moving. Only use the muscles you need to keep this general form. If you're tight in the shoulders and you don't need to be, loosen it. If you're holding on to an ankle, shoulder, see if you can release enough to just keep your body upright, but not to extensively activate those muscles. You don't need to. One last inhale and exhale. And then slowly on the exhale, let the chest return to the mat. Bring the elbows out to the side and rest your forehead or cheek, whichever feels better on your neck. Just a couple of breaths here. I'm resting on one cheek, pressing into the chest to turn the gaze, and breathe a couple of breaths on the other cheek. All right, one more inhale and bring the gaze back towards the mat. Bend the knees, and you can walk the fingers one more time up, but past your shoulders this time. See if you can rest the chin and or the mouth. Face is on the forward area. Arms are in the front. If the palms are down, that feels good. If it's not possible to bring the arms all the way up, you can have them out at an angle or just as high up as you're capable of doing. But we're just trying to find length. So bending the knees, you can roll the ankles, you can wiggle the fingers, you can reach with the fingers and arms, and you can roll on the wrists. And then gently return the feet, top of the feet to the mat, bring the arms back down. Rest your head on another side. If you're resting on your forehead before, try resting on one cheek, balancing out the other cheek before we leave. If you're on a cheek before, see if you can rest your forehead on the back of your hands or on the brow line for the mat. On the mat. All right, one more inhale. We're going to come back to center, bringing the gaze back. And see if you can rest the hands, bending the elbows. See if you can rest your back of your hands on the sacrum, the glutes, just maybe even at the hips where your fingers are somewhat on the back. We're just trying to get the back of your hands on the back. Just gives a nice rotation of the shoulders. And see if your shoulders can just rest out the mat as well. And then go ahead and let the hands return. Extend them and gently let them return to their side. We're going to go ahead and bring the hands up to our shoulders and decide if you want a reverse push-up or if you want to extend the arm and roll over to your back. We're making our way to our back. If you have a better way, safer way to do it, a more preferred way, go ahead. But usually, just depending on how I feel that day, it might be easier to do the reverse push-up. Maybe your hips are a little tighter. Or it might be easier to just do the roll. Maybe your shoulders have done a lot of work. Either way, we're just finding our way back onto a base bridge position on the mat and bringing the feet near the backside. You don't have to have them so close that they touch, but keeping the feet about hips distance apart and the arms stretched out to the side. Go ahead and give yourself a gentle rocking at the back of the sacrum. You'll find your knees might just begin to sway from side to side. And as you do that, you might just drop your face gaze to one side that's opposite as your knees windshield wipe to one side. See if you can roll your head and gently give yourself a gentle twist. And it's all we're doing is sort of giving ourselves a gentle swaying, windshield wiping, and the knees opposite of the gaze turn. And then we'll meet back at center. Readjust yourself, make sure you don't have any pinch shoulder skin or muscle, and make sure that your spine and neck are aligned. You want to make sure your neck is not curved to one side or the other. And from there, let's go ahead and just have a nice relaxed inhale. We're going to help bring our figure 4 into position, starting with the right leg. So just lift the right foot and then start to externally rotate that right hip. You might need to help bring the calf, maybe even your ankle over. If you have your strap near you, do what you can. But we're coming into a figure 4, and it takes us about 3 to 5 breath cycles to find that first edge. So if you're working on just keeping the right foot, the right ankle on that left knee without jeopardizing the position of the sacrum, the base of your bridge position. Sometimes just bringing that foot onto this left knee might bring you askew. So come back to center. Make sure your left and right sides of the sacrum are evenly distributed. You're not rolling to one side or the other. Sometimes that happens when we lift the appendage. Next thing to think about is your right knee. If it's very tight in the knee and the hip area, you might have that right knee winging inward, and that's okay. Just gently breathe. Start to see if each exhale brings the sacrum to relax more evenly on the mat, and eventually that helps to open up the hip and hopefully the knee as well. You can always just gently place the hand at the thigh or just on the knee to help keep it open and remind it not to fall forward into the chest anymore. And after a few breaths here, you should notice that you're feeling heavy at about the shoulders, back, all the way to the back of the sacrum. That base foundation of the bridge should feel pretty rooted. So once that's good there, then we're going to go ahead and just allow ourselves to relax. See if you can keep this heaviness in the right hip, keeping the openness of this right knee. The right foot is flexed. We don't need to point the toe, but keeping it flexed helps to protect this right knee. And all the while, we're eventually bringing the knees to face the ceiling as well. The sacrum, nice and firm, flat foundation, all the way up the spine to the shoulders. And it's more of a yin hold we're holding at this time. It's just a longer hold to help the joints open up. And once we're here, hopefully we have our block nearby. And staging the left side block, we're going to windshield wipe the knees over this figure 4 position of our legs over to the left side. You may not reach that block landing pad, but if you do, it's there. If you don't, that's okay too. Then maybe it's just you're pretty tight and just need to open up a little more. You can use your left hand to help support the left thigh. If you didn't make that landing pad, it could just be that you need a little time. You can allow the right shoulder to lift with you, and eventually it may find its way back down. And if you find that it's just not feeling good, you can always come out and try to go back in with a little less intensity. Don't go as deeply over. Or maybe you're just finding that initial roll to the left side of the sacrum. I don't know where you are in your practice, but keeping your body's communication open and listening to the body. Once you've found that edge, that point where you're finding a nice twist to your best ability in your figure 4 modified with the landing block on this side, you can bring out your arms. And remember, the position of the palms might even affect how much you release, or whether it's even something you want to do. So you may not even want to extend the arm, but if that's available, you can do that. We've been here for a total of 7 to 10 breath cycles, I'm pretty sure. So give yourself another breath in, another breath out, and then we're going to inhale, help to bring your legs back to center, bringing the sacrum back onto the mat. And once we're there, you can help lift the right ankle off, and then internally rotate this right thigh as you slowly allow the right foot to land back in that base bridge position. And give yourself a moment to straighten out your spine. If it was askew in that transition, make sure it's in alignment with your neck and in your base bridge position. And bring out your arms to the side of the hips, about a half a foot or a foot, palms down. You can gently let the knees roll to the right and windshield wipe to the right until you stop. You may be just suspended in air like I am, and that's okay. You might be completely windshield wiping your right leg over to the other side. Just depends. But just allow that opening. If it feels too deep, come on back out, go back in with less intensity, or just hang out in base bridge. But we're just trying to find a counter stretch here. And then we're going to inhale, help both knees, legs back up to center. Bring your back, sacrum back onto the mat. And once more, make your small adjustments in case your spine and your neck became misaligned. Return to your base bridge position. Feet are about hips distance apart. One more deep inhale. One more deep exhale. And then we're going to inhale. Start to lift the left foot. You can help lift the left foot by grabbing a hold of your left thigh. You can bring that strap over too. And we're going to use the next few breaths to start to bring the left ankle over to the right knee, right thigh area. So give yourself some 3 to 5 good slow breaths. See how it feels. If you're feeling really fragile, that is saying a lot about your state, and you need to move slowly and not go as deeply. If you're feeling pretty good and open and limber, then you can go a little deeper, but still use your exploratory moves as you're finding your edge. And remember, we're trying to keep our base bridge position. Your back from the shoulders to the hips, that sacrum, that's a good solid foundation. If you start to roll at the hips or the shoulders, you need to work on keeping those down and flattening. And once that's good, then you can focus on the legs. Is that left knee winging in towards the chest? If it's not, then we're just focusing for the next 5 to 10 breath cycles on just keeping your figure 4 position, holding it in a comfortable, steady state where you can breathe in and out like your ocean breath, allowing you to float on the ocean. And hopefully your body just settles in. Left foot is flexed. And if you're feeling open in that left hip, preparing for a slow windshield wipe landing to the right side. Adjusting that landing pad, making it somewhere in that right side windshield wipe. You can bring the arms out. You can have one arm, both arms helping to bring the configuration over. And again, it might just take some time. Your left shoulder can lift. You might find the block position. The foot is safely landed there, or maybe it's just still suspended in the air, making its way. But in that exploratory stage, we're just trying to find that edge that we can maintain. We're finding the extension of this twist is giving us release, hopefully, in the left side of our rib cage, left hip, all the way through the left side of our thigh. And we don't want to actively hold any muscles we don't need to keep the shape. So if you feel your big toe for some reason is really just being pointy, relax it. It doesn't need to be pointy. If your left shoulder can release and just float towards the mat, let it. If it needs to hang out in the air, let it. And then just use the next 3 to 4 breath cycles to find any extra release with the breath. Slow inhale to bring in the energy around you and have it spread throughout the body, through all points, finding any tightness. And with the exhale, allowing that tightness, that achiness to release. All right, and as you're finishing up that last breath, we're going to take our hands with the next inhale. Go ahead and slowly guide the legs, the sacrum, everything back to the mat, rolling. And give yourself a little bit of time to settle back in. Once your sacrum is safely back onto the mat, we're going to go ahead and inhale to lift up the left foot. And remember to internally rotate your left hip as you're lengthening that leg, bringing the left foot to land. And before we straighten out our legs, we're going to give one more counter stretch and a short windshield wipe to the left side. So bringing out the arms, palms down. Just let your feet roll to the edge on the left and let the knees float towards the left and land wherever they may be. Your right shoulder can lift or it might just stay there. And again, just breathe slowly and deeply. Savor that nice stretch on this side. And then we're going to use our hands if we need to inhale and guide the knees, thighs back up and the sacrum back onto the mat. In here, make sure your spine is aligned with your neck and both the sides of the sacrum are evenly supporting your weight now. And then you can slide one leg down. Just notice if the heel can flex gently, that left foot. If your left knee is tented, if your left hip is tented and the left calf is not even touching the mat, it might be you just need to give yourself some time to release, that you're still in that flexed mode in the hips as we were in our base position. So just give yourself a few breaths. You might be able to lengthen completely. Inhale, press out through the heel gently, extending the leg just slightly, and then release. Let the foot just relax, and the leg will be as long as it can. Either it's touching the mat or not. Take the next inhale and slowly lengthen through the right leg. Make any adjustments that you need. We're just going to flex the right foot gently just to see how that feels in the right hip, right knee. And it may be just as tented, might not be as tented in your right hip, your right knee, but give yourself some time. You might have to extend through the right leg by flexing that right foot and then just releasing the right foot and letting the right leg melt towards the mat. Once both legs are long, you can gently tap out the knees. You can do what feels good because we are moving into our Shavasana. And if you want to bring a blanket over you, if you want to stretch out the arms over your overhead and the legs and point the toes, flex the feet, do what feels good, rolling the body, and then just relax. Let the feet fall away from each other. I'm going to sit up while you can lay down and enjoy your Shavasana for the next 5 minutes. When you hear the 3 bells, we'll awaken. bringing the mind back to the body. Take note of sounds outside the room, sounds within the room, and finally back to the breath. Notice how the air enters the nose, how the air exits the nose. And as you begin your return to the body vessel, you can wiggle your fingers and toes to help connect once more. So we'll meet in upright position when you're ready. And today's breaths exercise at the end of class, we haven't had our alternate nostril in a while, so let's go ahead and sit upright in an easy seated position. You can either sit with your feet in front of you in a cross-legged position, and if it's too high, you can always have a block at either side to kind of help support those knees, because I know right now with my hips feeling really tight, sometimes having those blocks there will help. We want to keep the sits bones evenly distributed and sitting nice and upright. And if it's more comfortable, you can also sit in just a easy staff position as well. Sometimes with really tight hips, it's just one of those days. So left hand in our chin mudra, bringing the index and the thumb to rest on our left thigh, right hand in Vishnu mudra, or you can just bring the two fingers to rest on your brow line. Close the right nostril with the right thumb, left nostril with the right ring finger knuckle, or in the Vishnu position, right finger with the left nostril. All right, so with the next inhale, let's go ahead and breathe deeply. Closing the right nostril, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Inhale through the right. Last round. Close, exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close, exhale through the right. Release the hand. Release the mudras, and let the breath return to its natural state. Bring hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me here at the ACC Community Room for Gentle Yoga at 2 p.m. Namaste. Hey,
thank you, Jeani. It was wonderful. It was perfect. Thank you.
Hey.
Thank you, my dear.